Okay, just a quick overview of the past game. I think what came out of that most is we're constantly asking the guys in the defensive room just to play the next play and believe in the process in terms of if you keep improving and you play with relentless effort, you tackle, you got physical and mental toughness, you know your job and you do your job and you keep doing that over and over. That eventually it will pay dividends. And obviously, they had been making progress in that through the first three games, but the success had not really been on the scoreboard. And we tell them, hey, you can't worry about the scoreboard. You just do that every day and look up at the scoreboard at the end of the game after you play each play as its own play. But obviously, we're all human, and at some point in time, you like to see results of your labor. And I think they have seen some of that. Now, the big challenge for us this week is they're going to walk around, and everybody's going to tell them what kind of great job they did. And we had to get them in the room today and make sure they understood that we're not changing as coaches. We're going to do it the same way. Here's what you did wrong. Here's what we got to improve. Here's how we've got to get better. And we're going to go to work with the same way we've done every week, and it's not any different. I think some of the things that you guys always like to hear what we thought were the highlights or what we thought may have been some of the positive things, and then obviously everybody gets real excited when you say some of the things you need to improve on or put a negative connotation on it. So we really have kind of built an identity that we need to really keep going on the third downs. We were at 70% this week, and that now puts us, I think, at 27, right at 27 for the year, which is very positive. But it's going to be a challenge to keep it at that rate. We've got to work diligently to make sure we do. We've also right back in the we've done we've in the red zone. We've been efficient. We just got to keep people from getting to the red zone because we've been efficient when we were in the red zone. Probably the biggest two things in the game that were actually what you would say were momentum changers in the game would be the fumble that happened at the 17-yard line. When I'm not sure, I think they were up by one or two. I don't think we were ahead. I don't think we were. I think we were down by two, and it was a fumble at the 17-yard line. And with three downs, we made them kick a field goal. That was a huge time in the game, a huge time. And I think it continued to show that the guys they're trying to be physically and mentally tough and play the next play, and their spirit is starting to show in those situations. I think the next big play in the game was the Carl Lawson sack in the 2-minute. I think that was huge because at that point in time, they picked up 60 yards in that 2-minute drive, and 30 of them was on quarterback scramble. And part of that came as a result of probably a little oversimplification. We really oversimplified the game plan, and so we were a little short in terms of some things that we probably could have used at that time. And so they did a good job of fighting through it. And at the end of the day, people say, well, this could have happened, that could have happened. Well, it didn't. And, the shoe's on the other foot because when we come in after the scoreboard not showing what we want it to show, it's usually, well, you could have done this and could have done that from us. And obviously, externally, it's, well, you didn't. So it's flipped over a little bit now. And but we've got a big challenge this week, and the big challenge is that we're coming off of a very physical, tough, dominating game, and we've got to get them back into full-speed practice mode. Said it many times before, who we play is irrelevant. The jersey, the color, the name, it's about us, and it's about us executing. We've got some things we got to clean up in the run game. We're playing very efficient most run plays, but we're still having a an issue every now and then of not being in our proper technique or gap, and we'll get that cleaned up.
Kevin, when it comes to winning on third down, you guys have done pretty well this year. What's a statistical number that you feel good with?
Well, our goal is 30%, and that's pretty standard. I mean, that's not something I came up with. That's something that, the Green Bay Packers used, Dom used. I even think Coach Belichick, that was their goal, 70%. And so it's kind of just passed down the line. It's been 70% every place I've been. So I think that's, 7 out of 10 is pretty efficient.
Kevin, could you just describe your emotions at the end of the game as you were waiting for the?
Well, actually, I was kind of like what Coach said. When you've done it a while with 1 second, and so they've got to get lined up. They've got to be set. Everything's got to be exact on point. And there was still movement going around, things moving and those things. So I really never thought that they got it off.
A little nervous though until they said it?
No. I mean, I was pretty confident they didn't get it off.
Go back to the third down, Kevin. 30% is the goal. You're at 27. That's a number that I know it's a long way to go. There's still plenty of games to go, but that's a number that you haven't had in a while. But a lot of defenses don't have, period. You haven't had this since 2008. But can you pinpoint why the success is there other than?
Well, it's like anything else. I think there's 2 things. I think the players have done a good job in the back end of conceptually understanding what we're going to do on third down. I think Coach McGriff has done a really good job of making sure when we do our third down presentation and we present to them what they're going to see. I think these guys have really done a good job of understanding the concepts we're playing against the concepts they're running. But then I think our pass rush, although it hadn't resulted in sacks, everybody likes sacks, and that's a huge number. But affecting a quarterback is a big number. There was 7 quarterback hurries and 4 sacks, right? I knew the stat sheet said 3, but there was actually 4, and he got it corrected. Those D-line coaches will go get it corrected real quick. Players will be banging on the door. So that was 11 effects total in 31 call passes. And so that's pretty efficient, really. And I think that's why it's happened. But then we have made a major emphasis on that. Wednesday is our third down day, and we emphasize it in a great way.
Out of those 11 effects that you talked about, I believe Carl had 5 of them. You talked about how he's been productive so far this season, but the stats weren't really
Right.
there so far. Was it nice for you to see him finally get home, not only for the sacks, but also be able to put pressure on the quarterback?
Well, those guys take a lot of pride in that, and they like to see. They like the finished result where there's a stat attached to it, which as coaches we just want to see them do their job and in that way. So yeah, it's nice to see guys recognized for their efforts.
Then you talked about kind of putting them in some of those situations where you could get some second long, third long situations. Your defense did a good job of. Fournette had a couple of runs, but a lot of 1- and 2-yard runs.
Yeah.
That'd be really good to see, just to keep them churning up some yards.
Well, I mean, that guy's trust me, I know what kind of back he is. I witnessed that live and in color on a lot of practice days. And that guy's a special football player and got great work ethic. He's even a better person. And so I knew what kind of challenge that was. I mean, he can make people miss, but he can also run through you. And so I think the big thing was to make sure that we didn't make it about one guy. It can't be about one guy. But obviously he was the lead horse in the race, and we had to make sure that we got him knocked down and didn't let anything come out real explosive on it, because he has the ability to go the distance.
Kevin, I'm sure you've heard about Les.
Yeah.
Could you just comment on
Well, yeah. I mean, I understand the business. I do the business side of it, and my thoughts and prayers are with he and his family. They were very good to my family. I think from a philosophical standpoint, because this is just personal, it's a personal thing. From a philosophical standpoint, I will say this. This is an education business at the end of the day. We have 18 to 22-year-olds at an educational institution, and we're teachers at the end of the day. And because of that, at this time in the process, and I mean, they do what they want to do, but philosophically, personally, I just don't believe in.
How you feel about Ed Orgeron getting that shot to be an interim coach again?
Well, I think Ed would be the first to tell you that, to get a shot like that for that reason, it's not what you're trying to make happen. But he's a good football coach. He's a good person. He's a good leader. He will obviously he's got experience of doing that. So and did well.
Kevin, you've talked before in this room about not playing scared, and you've got a drive here where they're trying to go down and score a touchdown on the last drive, and
Yeah.
you could try to keep everything in front of you and play quote unquote prevent, and you're still blitzing. What do you? But
Yeah.
you get a good reaction from your players. You get a good reaction from your players when you do that.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if we'd had a little bit more in our package and had not oversimplified the package, you'd have seen more. There was 2 calls on there that you saw that really, I'd have called it pressure at that time, and we just had shown them both those other 2 pressures that we had for that situation, which was not enough. But we were trying to be really, real simple with the game plan and not let our players overthink. But yeah, I don't mind.
Do you used to get a sense your players get a jolt from, hey, coach still wants us to play this way, and we're still going after them instead of, trying to keep everything in front of us?
Well, you'd have to ask them that, but I think for the players enjoy that. I mean, they do. They enjoy it.
How pleased were you with your linebackers after Trey got ejected?
Yeah.
Rotation, to go with there. How pleased were you with their?
Well, I thought they did a really good job. We tackled really well in the game, except the first 4 plays. The first 4 plays, I was like, wow, we need to go back over to the practice field for a few minutes, take a break. But after the first 4 plays, I think everything settled down, and we really tackled very well. We were very physical. Those guys fit the run very well, and tackled well. We had a lot of hats to the ball. We did have a lot of hats to the ball. There's a lot of relentless effort on that field.
How do you feel about Trey Matthews' performance led the team in tackles? I know LSU was kind of a low light for him last year after what Fournette was able to do against.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the rule we had last week is I don't want to hear about last year. I know I was there. Okay, so don't tell me about it. Now, obviously, I had a different vantage point, but I understand what you're saying, and we're just everybody grows and everybody matriculates to a different mindset for whatever reason. Sometimes it's just you just being around, just growing older. Sometimes it's getting bigger, stronger, faster. Sometimes it's just a mindset change. But he did play a very good game. He's very productive and really made some really good tackles. Really good tackles.
Kevin, Trey Williams got ejected, obviously, yesterday.
But I will say this, excuse me, I will say this. I mean, he has 2 new shoulders, too. I think that helps.
With Trey getting ejected yesterday, it wasn't a dirty hit in either way, but it was just a targeting call on him. Is that the cost of doing business in a way? I mean, you teach your kids to hit hard, and occasionally, do you look at it as they're going to get?
No, now the biggest thing you got to understand is we have a responsibility that is very, very serious in this game because it's our game and we got to take care of it. So we really emphasize safe tackling. And it's not for us to decide when it's a bang bang moment. That's for somebody else to decide. But once they've decided it, you know the SEC rules.
Did you talk to Trey about that hit? I mean, was it something that you're upset about?
Well, no, we're not upset. That's not the right word. I mean, we'll show him on film, and if there's some ways we can correct it in terms of being safer and better technique, we'll do that. If there's not, then we can't.
So sometimes they are unavoidable just because a guy falls awkwardly or has,
Well, I mean, it's 2 human bodies moving at a high rate of speed that are big and powerful, and sometimes angles change. Sometimes angles change.
TJ played the most he's played thus far this season. Just what you think about how he played this?
I thought TJ did a good job. He did a good job of quarterbacking the defense. He made some good run fits. Had some good tackles. So he played well.
Take a few more.
On that, how does Montavious Atkinson do?
Well, I tell you what, Montavious did a good job. He can run. He's physical. He's got a good motor. You know, we were in a different ball game, as you well know, and that's a different deal than nickel and dime when you got regular and there's, you know, where we've been playing with 12 men spread out and all of them in motion. We were playing with 13 men in a phone booth and they're all swinging. And so it was a physical game, and so you need to make sure you, when it's that kind of game, that you can refresh those guys inside. And we rolled them, and they did a good job. They did a good job.
Did Montravius Adams play really well?
Yeah, that was something. I'm glad you mentioned that. That was something in watching the film last night, and not to say that you said you watched it last night. Normally I watch it early Sunday morning, but for whatever reason my mind couldn't stop turning. I couldn't sleep, so I just got up and graded the film last night. The defensive line, 1, 3, 95, and 55. You know, Carl Lawson, Dontavious, Adams, and Marlon really played a very, very solid, good football game. They affected the line of scrimmage on most every snap. That was a good core group in there.
What it is about it, when you say it is about us, especially in a week like this, you're playing a Sun Belt team who's going through a bit of a rebuild. What are you trying to get out of this week, and how, I know you had to prepare for McNeese. If you look at back, I think you had to play them last year, you had to prepare for that coach, and
Right.
he's there now. How much do you take a little bit from a year plus ago of preparing for that and trying to get something out of this?
Yeah, much of this. I mean, a lot of it's the same stuff, and so I've seen the offensive philosophy. Now we only got to play 4 snaps in that game, but we had to prepare for it, which is a story in itself there. But we did prepare for it, and so I've got background of what he does, what he likes. A lot of it's the same. Some of the personnel is different because he's got different personnel at Monroe. So I mean, they're very, very well coached. And schematically, he gives you some problems. He gives you some problems with the quarterback run game, and the way they go about doing it.
All right, Coach. Thank you.
I wasn't through.